Hello, everybody, and welcome to our training on APRs. My name is Tony Diaz, and I'm one of the PA HMIS system administrators for the balance of state. Okay, so I'm already logged into our training environment here in client Track.19. And the first thing we're going to want to do is find where to export the APR at. So I will come over here to the flag that has an arrow going each direction and click on that. That's going to open up what we call the carousel to the extreme left. You will be able to navigate left, and to the extreme right, there's an arrow to navigate to the right. In the middle, you're going to see these active workspaces, and I am just going to click on over to reports. I'll go into that active workspace, and I know I'm successful because it says reports over here on the left side. If your menu is not open like mine is, you're going to want to double click up here a couple of times to get this menu to open, and you will be able to see all the sub menus then. Each one of these is a sub menu that holds reports in them themselves. So today we're looking at APRs. So HMIS exports. We are going to go ahead and click on that and then select APR. And that is going to load up our APR. So running the APR itself is actually very easy. There's only two required fields to get an APR to run. The organization, which is going to default to whatever organization you are logged into, and the program. Okay, but there's a couple other things you want to do. Those are the two mandatory fields. Because this auto-populates, the date range, the beginning and the ending date auto-populate from the last time you ran an APR. It is not a required field. But if you don't look at your date ranges and make sure that they are correct, you can run a successful APR for the wrong dates. So they do try to build in a bit of convenience. There's a drop-down menu. If you want to do fourth quarter, you just select fourth quarter. It'll automatically populate. You want to do a month ago. There you go. That does a month ago. If you want to do some very particular dates like I do, then you can open up these little calendars and specifically choose which day you want. So I want June 1st, 2020, and I want 7:30 in 2020. So those are my dates. If you're uploading for submission, you're probably going to want to use, the entire year. So again, the organization is going to populate to whatever organization that you happen to be logged into at the time. If you're running it for a different organization, you're going to want to deselect the organization that you're in and reselect your other organization that you have access to. Otherwise, you just hover over it and make sure it's the right org that you want, and then you can scroll down. This area right in here is usually where people get hung up. None of this is mandatory. Even in the filter by program type is not mandatory. You can run a successful APR without including this. It is something that Acovia has put in there to use if you wish, but you have to be 100% sure of everything that you select, because if you make the wrong selection, for instance, in grant program, if you make the wrong selection, you're going to have an unsuccessful APR. But when you do select the grant program, then the grant component becomes active. Right now, it's just at select. When the grant program is selected, the grant program component will become active, and it'll display the options for that particular program. And you could select the appropriate component. Same thing with the filter by grants. You can choose a specific grant that you want to run your APR for, or you can deselect it. Program type as well. You can choose a specific program type and then choose the program, or you can just choose the program. So a lot of these are matters of convenience to narrow down the range of selections. But you do have to choose a program. There's a red star there. So you will be checking this box and you will be making a choice. Of course, you want to be sure to choose the right program. I'm going to choose permanent housing. And that is it. I'm ready to export my APR. You're always going to see at the end here, validation file. So it's going to generate another report, a details report that's going to help you understand your APR. So you always want to select to generate the validation file, and then we will hit run our export. And the first thing they're going to ask you is, do you want to encrypt this? So encryption is good. If you feel like you have an unsecure laptop or there is you're going to be sending it through the email, then you definitely want to use your passwords. This box is always going to be checked, the header row, and you always want to check the box for quote CSV values. Whether you are encrypting or not encrypting, you still want to have both of these two boxes checked. Now, Sage is not going to accept a encrypted password protected file. So you're going to have to extract the files out of the encryption with the passwords before you try to upload it into Sage, because Sage does not know the password. There's no way to upload a password for the file. So it's just going to kick it back. They have to be extracted out. So if you go the non-encrypted route, you're going to have to assume responsibility and then click done. It's going to tell you your export has been queued and will be processed at the next available time. So this is a good time to think about your APR and the time frame that you're going to leave to the download time. So download times can be anywhere from 10 minutes to 20 minutes to, I've had them go as long as 12 hours. It all depends on how much commotion is going on inside a client track, whether that's on the front end with caseworkers or on the back end with the vendor doing system maintenance and improvements and fixes. All that's going to play into how quickly your turnaround is for your APR. So I recommend that you leave about 24 hours. If you have a meeting Tuesday morning at 9, you do not want to wait until Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock when you walk in the door to run your APR report, because it might not go well for you. You want to give it about 24 hours. That way there's plenty of time to be sure that when you walk in the door at 7:30 on Tuesday morning, your APR is there and waiting for you. Just a word of advice. So we're going to hit OK. Our export has been queued and will be processed at the next available time. So that is immediately going to take you to the servers on file section. Servers on file is where all your files are held that you have requested. A couple of things you want to know about this area in particular is they're good for a year. You have your creation date, your expiration date, and then you have other numbers here that there's no need to worry about. They're never going to match the clock on your computer or the clock on your stove or the clock on your phone. They're just wherever those servers happen to be and whatever time schedule they happen to be using. So don't become alarmed if you notice that the time stamps are all wrong. There's 3 keywords that you're going to be looking for. First keyword is validation. That's going to be your details file. The second keyword is export. That's going to be your actual APR. That is what gets loaded up into Sage. And then you're going to have this other one called preload. So the preload file is absolutely useless to the end user. That's just a file that is run to help this file, the export, get down onto the server. Over here we have the X, which will delete the file. So this is a preload. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that because I don't need it. And there, it's gone. And then we have the paper with the green arrow. This is going to allow you to actually download the file. So this area is called Files on Server, and it is accessible by clicking on this over here, Files on Server. So when you go in, you can have your reports section, and you open up your menu if it's not already open, and right between the Data Explorer and the by name list is going to be Files on Server. And when you click on that, it is going to load up this table right here. And when you look at this table right here, you're going to notice it's going to say click to view the status of export or import tasks. So this is basically where things go when they are waiting to be run. Okay, so this is your task window, and as you can see, our preload that we just requested is done. Our export and our validation files have not yet started. This window here refreshes every 30 seconds. So every 30 seconds, this window is going to refresh and update with new information. And there it goes. Okay, it also has the option to refresh now. If you don't have 30 seconds, you can hit refresh now and it'll update for you. It also has a box up here to show only my task. You can choose that. And it's only going to show the task that you ran. Okay, and so this is where you come to check to see the progress of your exports. And it is located right here on the click to view inside the files on server, which is found on your menu in the reports page between Data Explorer and by name list. So I'm going to go ahead and download a couple of these. Now they do populate from the top. So the top is always going to have the last thing you ran, and at the very bottom is going to be the first thing you ran. So once again, the two that are important to you are validation and export. Export is your APR. That's what gets uploaded into Sage. I'm going to go ahead and download that. So when you download it, you can see it's not encrypted. It is a folder with a zipper. So that is our symbol for the compressed file. And when you click on the arrow facing up, it's going to give you some options. You can choose to open it, tell it to always open, are to show in folder. So if you're going to show in folder, what that's going to do is Client Track's going to place it on your computer, and it's very easy to click show in folder and then close. But you're going to want to write down what that address is, where in the computer Client Track is storing it, because it could be difficult to find later. If you're like me and you have a lot of drives on your computer and a lot of files, if you don't know where something is, it can become very easily lost. So I recommend that you do write down the address. If you choose to show in folder, write down the pathway to find it, because when you go to Sage, and we should talk about this, when you go to Sage and you want to test run your APR, so test running an APR is done before you even log into Sage. So you don't even need to log in. You go to Sage. You on the right hand side of the login screen, it says, "Do you want to test run a report?" You say yes, and then it asks you to choose a file. So you're going to want to know exactly where that APR file is, and then you're going to just choose it, verify that you're not a robot, and it's going to test it for you. Now, after it tests it, it'll offer you the opportunity to receive an email with any kind of errors that were noticed. So basically, the kind of errors that they're going to send you in the email are going to be things like the wrong file, wrong project type, structural error, or a validation error. Those are usually what you're going to see. So if it is a wrong file, then the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to rerun that APR. Make sure that everything is selected correctly, and just run it again, because maybe there was a glitch in the system. Anything else, whether it's project related to the setup data, structural error, validation error, you're going to want to put in a help ticket. If you don't know how to put in a help ticket, there is a video on our HMIS page for putting in tickets. So I would recommend that if you don't know how to do it, you go and view that video, and that way you'll be able to put in a help ticket when you have your email from Sage saying that there's something wrong with your project setup. Okay, so the other thing we're going to do, let's just open this up here. Before we start talking about validation files, we'll just go ahead and open up our APR. I think most people have seen one. These are all individual files. And I don't know why it starts at 4, but it does. And goes up through 27. So when we release the written accompaniment for this video, we're going to go ahead and label all these and tell you exactly what question that is. So 4A is going to be your HMIS information. And when you open it up, it's going to look like this. So obviously you can see that you're not seeing the full information. And when you see hashtags like this, that's going to signify that there's not enough room to write whatever was supposed to be in there, numbers. So quick and easy trick is you come up here between the 1 and the A, and you double click, and that's going to highlight your whole sheet. You go between the A and the B and double click again, and that's going to space everything out so you can read everything. So now we know what everything says, my fake organization, etc. It's going to have your project ID, your project type, and things like project type and victim service provider are geared toward display items having to do with the code. So like for a victim service provider, 0 would be no and 1 would be yes. Down here you got your report start date and your end date, and the name of your vendor, your geocode, and your COC. And that's what each and every one of these files are. So like, if you wanted to look at age, you would select number 11. And again, we double click, and there we go. Or if you wanted to look at exit destination, you would come down here, 223, and that is the question for exit destination. And as you can see, there's not a whole lot of information here, but that is because I took a very, very small length of time with the program that does not have a whole lot of clients into it. As some of you know, if you're looking at a year's worth of data, these files can get quite large. So the validation file, go ahead and download that. And we can open it up. So the validation file is going to be your friend, especially if you have a lot of clients. The first one, the 2020 detail, we'll open that up. That's just going to give you some general information. Again, double click here, double click there. It becomes readable. Okay, so then you can start ciphering through your data. This actually goes on for quite a while. Okay, so there's just a wealth of information in here. Now, 2, 3, 4, and 5, these are going to be the details that are going to be pointing out errors. And 6, 7, 13, 14, 19, and 21 are all going to be listing different things. So like 5 is going to list data errors related to reporting on prior living situation. 4 is going to be about exit destination. 3 is going to be about supplemental demographic information. And 2 is going to be about your basic demographic information. So like 2 will be like Social Security, and 3 would be like a veterans question. And then you come down here to 6. It's going to be length of time reports between client's actual entry or exit. 7 is for emergency housing, not by night shelters. 13 It's going to list your responses to HMIS barriers. 14 is going to list your domestic violence responses. And 19 is going to be your income change. And 21 is going to have your health insurance responses too. So let's go up here. We'll look at number 2. We'll do our little thing. And now we can read it. Okay. So this is saying that there's looks like about 4 or 5 people that you're going to want to look at. Here you got one that says client refused. So you're going to want to go back, or doesn't know, or you're going to want to go back and try to get that information. You got a couple up here where the information's missing. You got one here that is data not collected. And then a couple of here that are not conforming to the Social Security rules. So if this was to say nothing, then that would mean that everything was perfect and you had nothing to worry about. But let's go ahead and close this. And we will go back over here to clients. And I already have Mr. Devereaux pulled up. So we're going to look at his basic client information. And so how we got here was, let me tell you, let's do this. Okay. So let's do this. Let me cancel out of here. Okay, so the reason I exited out of there is because I want to show you how to get back in. Okay, so now we're on his dashboard and we know he's client 363. So we can always search for client 363 and he will come up. You come down here to his enrollments and we hit the play button, the action button, go ahead and click on that. And it's going to open up another menu. Now in this menu, we're going to have edit project entry workflow right there. And go ahead and click on that. Okay, so now that's going to load up his intake. And we're going to see his social security number. Now I talked to Mr. Devereaux earlier after I ran this report. And originally his number had been 000. But I ran the report and I looked at this earlier and I saw that these were zeros, and I went and I talked to him about it and he said, oh yeah, it's not 000, it was 535. So I went ahead and made that correction and clicked finish. So now the next time we run the report, he should not be coming up as an issue. And that is what you're going to do each and every time that you go through these validation reports and you see the clients that need attention, and you're going to go into the workflow and you're going to make those corrections every time. And then you can go back and run another APR and see that the corrections were taken, and then you can go and resubmit your APR for a test run. And when they say everything's perfect, then you can log into Sage and upload your APR. So as you can see, you're going to want to spend some time on this. You're going to want to take some time set aside, a couple of weeks at least, to go through all this data cleanup. And we here, the administrators are here to help you with it. And certainly I would encourage you to submit tickets. And it's the quickest way to get something addressed if you run into a problem that you can't fix by altering the workflow, or if you are unsure of how to alter the workflow to fix the problem. By all means, submit a ticket. We have lots of great people here who are here to help. And this is going to conclude our training for today. I want to say thank you for participating. It's been great, and we will see you next time. Bye now.